速览全球市场，聚焦财经热点。大家好，欢迎收看今天的全球财经连线。自2月下旬以来，随着国际地缘政治局势不断升级，国际油价大幅攀升，其中布伦特原油价格一度突破每桶130美元。尽管本周国际油价有所回落，但仍高于每桶90美元。那么未来国际油价何去何从？是否会突破每桶200美元？我们请牛津经济研究院全球宏观研究总监 Ben May 为我们带来他的预测。Hello Ben, glad to see you.
Our view is that the oil price will probably start to fall back from here as tensions start gradually ease. Clearly at the moment there's supply issues related to Russia not supplying to global markets due to the sanctions, but probably in time we'll see some of that oil flowing out of Russia, maybe to different places to before, but some of it is likely to flow out as there's greater clarity on the sanctions. And also over time it's likely to be the case that other suppliers increase production as well. Perhaps US shale industry will step up production, possibly OPEC economies, which would obviously help. And in an environment where perhaps demand is going to be slowing, that obviously will be another factor that might help to either keep oil prices sort of contained or even start to push them back a little bit.
除了油价之外，其他大宗商品价格也在上涨，这对全球经济有哪些影响呢？今年全球经济前景如何呢？我们继续听 Ben 的解读。
So, a lot of these prices are spiking as partly on uncertainty as well. So, as things become a little bit clearer, some of that sort of risk premium that's being attached to those prices at the moment might start to come away. But really, a lot really depends on what happens. In terms of the war in Ukraine, its longevity, its severity, the impact of sanctions, how long those last. And at the moment, those are things that we just don't know with any huge certainty. So we're still expecting the global GDP to grow by 3.7% this year, which is down from our forecast sort of just before the Ukraine crisis of 4%. So we have lowered it. I think also probably since then, if anything, the news has been worse in terms of the scale of sanctions, the possibility, certainly higher energy prices. So I think probably now that forecast is a little bit too optimistic. But it's worth noting that even like 3.7% growth would be very strong by post-global financial crisis standards. And even if we knock a bit off, it's still good growth by the standards of the last sort of 10, 12 years, if we exclude the exceptionally strong growth from last year. So kind of the notion, yes, it is having a negative impact on the global economy for a range of channels, but it's not really something that we think is about to push the global economy into recession in the way that perhaps some people have suggested. For us, that feels like quite a bold statement that's probably an exaggeration of what is likely to happen.
目前市场预测美联储将在3月议息会议上加息25个基点，但是面对居高不下的通胀，25个基点是否足够呢？通胀是否会在今年年底回落呢？我们再来听听 Ben 的预测。
Our view is probably that people like the Fed will continue to raise interest rates in line with what we envisaged they would be doing, a month or so ago. But certainly for some economies where, like Europe, where probably the hit to activity is going to be bigger because of the closer geographic proximity, more tighter links with Russia in terms of gas, and the fact that their economy has been a bit weaker relatively than the US. Then maybe for those countries it's going to be that it's a bit tougher the balance, and maybe that they proceed a little bit more cautiously. Yeah, our view is still that inflation will be markedly lower at the end of the year than it is now, and certainly than the peak. And that really reflects the fact that energy inflation should fall back over the course of the year unless oil and gas prices keep rising further. which we don't see as being particularly likely. Then if you're thinking about, say, core inflation, we know that some of that increase has been due to large amounts of demand for goods, with people spending more on goods than services. Under the assumption that COVID becomes less and less of an issue, that might lead to some rebalancing of spending back to services from goods, which is likely to perhaps start to push down goods inflation. So we do expect inflation to fall. How sharply it falls and when is once again is quite highly uncertain. It depends a lot on how these factors play out. But we're reasonably confident that the trend will be downwards, sort of as you get towards the middle of the year.
好的，谢谢本。受外围市场影响，近期 A 股表现较为低迷。那么 A 股是否已经进入避险时刻？接下来 A 股行情将如何演绎？哪些板块值得期待呢？我们来连线中国银行研究院研究员范若莹。范老师您好，请带来您的解读。
主持人好。我们看到近期 A 股表现低迷，事实上是多重因素造成的共同结果。那主要呢，包括一个是外围市场的扰动和外溢影响，还有呢美联储加息在即造成的这样的情绪的扰动，以及地缘政治风险上升等因素。那从整体的 A 股情绪面来看，确实避险情绪非常的重。那整体的北向资金也呈现出净流出的这样的态势。但是呢，在经过了前期相对比较大幅的调整以后，我们认为未来 A 股再有这样的一个大幅调整的可能性相对已经很小了，已经基本具备了长期价值投资的这样的可能和条件。那第一的话，我们看到是我国稳增长政策在持续的加码当中，后续经济运行还是将会继续的逐步好转。从前2个月的经济数据其实已经可以看到，大部分的经济数据均好于预期。那同时未来的话，我们还是有这样的一个一致预期，是宽货币和宽信用政策还会进一步的发力，带来流动性的一个改善。那第二方面是随着美联储加息靴子的落地，市场情绪面会有一个集中的释放。那在释放之后呢，利空带来的更多的会是利好，后续可能情绪面上会有一个回暖。那第三的话是我们整体看到 A 股的估值已经到了一个相对比较低的位置，那3大股指的市盈率居处于历史的较低水平，并且呢叠加整个的一个企业业绩披露情况来看，大部分的 A 股企业整体的业绩表现其实相对都是比较好的。因此呢，未来整体来看是对 A 股的走势不必过于太多的悲观。那进一步到具体的板块来看的话呢，整体的话可能是前期调整比较充分的这样的一个高景气板块，比如说新能源、军工值得关注。还有呢是我跟稳增长相关的，例如大基建这样的一个大板块，基本上都可能会有更大的这样的一个反弹的空间和潜力。
好的，谢谢范老师。我们可以看出，尽管 A 股近期出现非理性下跌，但是 A 股中长期向好的趋势保持不变。在宏观政策和流动性相对友好的情况下， A 股或将回暖。以上就是本期全球财经连线的全部内容，感谢收看，再会。